I really didn't know how to exist in a world where dance didn't exist. So when I moved back, I looked everywhere for it here in Cleveland, and you're probably surprised to hear that it didn't exist at the time. And I'm sure most of you drove by at least one dance studio on your way here, or biked here, because they are on every corner. But those studios are really full of kids. And let's be honest, kids are really where the money is. So I decided to just make it myself. Having an idea is the easy part. Executing that idea, executing it well, is really freaking hard, right? And doing it by yourself is absolutely impossible. Number two, I did not get into this because I wanted to start a business. I started this because I wanted something in Cleveland that didn't exist. And since no one else would make it, and I did email some people, no one else would make it. How often have you had terrible rejection, terrible heartbreak, and you've taken that and you've channeled it into the best dance, the best song, the best poem, the best business decision, right? We take those feelings and we channel them into something else. So thank you for coming and listening to me talk today. Thank you, Tom, for inviting me. I should probably pull up my notes because I will inevitably get nervous and forget what I'm saying. But when Tom first asked me to come speak, he was like, hey, you need a theme. And I was like, how about failure? And Tom was like, how about movement? And I was like, you're right, that's better, that's better. I'm not saying that I'm a failure by any means, even though I'm having a lot of imposter syndrome up here right now talking to you. But to prove that point to myself and to let you know a little bit about where I came from, I graduated top of my high school class at the age of 16. I went to Carnegie Mellon and got my bachelor's in chemistry. I then moved on to get my doctorate in physical therapy from Columbia University. I toured the world for a year with the Broadway show WarHorse as their physical therapist. I was not on stage, although I had many nightmares/dreams about doing so. And then I moved back to Cleveland, where I have been working with university hospitals full-time as a physical therapist, while simultaneously developing Cleveland Dance Project, which is where movement comes in, which has grown astronomically beyond my wildest dreams, to the point where I'm unable to keep a hold on it at this point. Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot. So obviously none of that says failure, but the failures in my life have pushed me forward into where I am today. And I think that's the point that I really want to drive home, is that if we can take those moments of failure and use them as moments of pause to kind of take a look and reflect and push us forward into the beautiful, innovative, creative movement of our lives, if we choose to let failure do that. So since we all love a little schadenfreude, why don't we come and look at some of my failures together? So failure number one, I applied for 12 undergraduate schools. I was feeling pretty good about them. Most of them are Ivy League, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Princeton, you know the type, and I got rejected from most of them. Carnegie Mellon was never where I really wanted to be. I wanted to be a professional dancer. My Chinese father said, absolutely not. You are going and you are getting a degree. And I do thank him for that at this point. So when I went to Carnegie Mellon, I actually ended up there because at an info session, there was a photo of a point dancer on one of the slides. And I was like, oh, Carnegie Mellon has a great drama program. They've got a top-tier musical theater program. They've got to have a good dance program. So I didn't do my research. I showed up at Carnegie Mellon, and turns out they don't have a dance program. So I then found an extracurricular dance organization on campus, and I threw myself into that. I danced with them and also eventually ended up directing that organization. And it's been really wonderful because it actually showed me how to lead an all-level dance organization, which is kind of the base bones that I then used to develop Cleveland Dance Project. So my failure at not doing my research and seeing that there wasn't a dance major at Carnegie Mellon turned into an opportunity to really learn how to run this type of organization. So failure number two. When I was at Carnegie Mellon, I wanted to go to medical school. My mom, who is here today, is a family medicine, yes, she's wonderful. Give her a round of applause. She's a family medicine doctor and a homeopath. And growing up, she had a lot of really useful skills, right? She could diagnose all of our problems. She could give us the right medications when we needed them and tell us how to live a good, healthy, holistic lifestyle. And as a DO, she's got a lot of these magical hand skills that she did to like fix headaches and back pain. So I was like, hey, that seems like a really great profession. She can help people, it's functional, it makes a solid amount of money, as my father wanted me to remember. So I went to Carnegie Mellon and I did my required pre-med coursework and I took the MCAT, and I don't want to brag, but I did very average on all of that. My advisor was then like, your GPA is also really average, so maybe you should take a year off before you apply to med schools. And I was like, there is no way in hell I am prolonging that journey. I'm gonna be ancient, like in my 30s before I make money as a medical doctor, right? So my failure at the MCAT then forced me to pause and take a moment and figure out how else can I incorporate movement and my interest in the human body into a career. And thus, physical therapy. I found it, and I started applying for schools, and lo and behold, I found myself at Columbia in New York City, which is one of the greatest cities in the world, aside from Cleveland. And it also happened to have world-class dance opportunities that I could dance at any time of any day. Also, Columbia was great, but New York was really where my heart was happy. And I think that I've really made a point to try to prioritize keeping movement in my life all the time. And that's one of the other lessons that I feel like I've learned throughout my life, is that we are all busy, right? We all don't have enough time to do all the things we want to do. But I do feel like if something is really important, you can take the time to prioritize it. And for me, that was dance. Dance was important. Even as I was studying to get these grueling degrees at these grueling universities, I made sure that dance was in my life. I had rehearsals at 12:30 at night, which right now sounds like terrible. That's like middle of it. That's practically morning. But I made sure that I had time to dance. So I found a job that was movement-focused, physical therapy, where I could help other people. And then I also started Cleveland Dance Project, which allowed other adults to find a home after they left the studio setting or after the college setting. And CDP has also had this beautiful side effect that it's also introduced a lot of new adults who are beginner dancers to the studio and to the performance life, which has allowed them to make movement fun and incorporate movement into their lives, and also created some really beautiful community connections, which is what it's all about, right? So movement's not only the theme of today, it's also the theme of my life. Growing up in the dance world gave me discipline, perseverance, a couple of body image disorders, we won't talk about those, and also my best friendships. I really didn't know how to exist in a world where dance didn't exist. So when I moved back, I looked everywhere for it here in Cleveland, and you're probably surprised to hear that it didn't exist at the time. And I'm sure most of you drove by at least one dance studio on your way here, or biked here, because they are on every corner. But those studios are really full of kids. And let's be honest, kids are really where the money is. So, adults can always say, no, I'm not coming to dance today because my partner is sick, my kid is sick, my dog needs a walk, I had a hard day at work, I took my pants off and now I'm sitting on the couch and I am not going anywhere tonight, right? We have all made those excuses for that thing that we're like, I can't do it today. So the closest thing to what I really craved were these Thursday morning jazz dance classes with the legendary Dee Hillier. She is incredible. She's like 86 now. But she really molded the dance scene in Cleveland. And her classes were full of local studio owners and like professional kids that were off in Cleveland for a little bit, off of their cruise ship tour, their Broadway tour, whatever. So it was a really beautiful space that also became a little bit of a social hour. The only thing it was missing was that there really was no performance opportunity. So I finally, after 3 years of existing in this really wonderful community that inspired and supported me, but didn't give me exactly what I wanted, I decided to just make it myself. So I remember the night vividly. I was sitting on my couch, and my wedding was a month away, so I was planning my wedding, but I was kind of like all planned out at that point, and I had nothing to do with all my energy. So I knew a little bit about Google and SEOs and nothing about business, but I was like, what should I name this thing that will make it pop up at the top of the list when people search for dance opportunities in Cleveland? And I don't know what I'm doing. So it's called Cleveland Dance Project. Here we are. And that is how the name was born. I also used Google to figure out how to do business stuff and how to find a stage that we could perform in our first season, if a first season happened, if anyone would come with me. And I found the cheapest lecture hall I could at Cleveland State, which is really not conducive to dance. It was like this slippery wood floor. The lights were like on dimmer switches, like there were 3 colors. It was not a dance space at all. But I made a Facebook event. I invited literally everyone I knew, dancers, non-dancers, movers, and said, hey, come dance with me. 17 people applied to choreograph, and I took all of them, so we had a 17-piece show. And then like 35 more people showed up to auditions, which was awesome. And it was very laid back, very casual. We were all learning together because, again, I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember like at auditions, I had realized that I had only really planned to do 1 show that day. And I had the space all day. So I was just like, hey, guys, do you want to do 2 shows that day? And everyone was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's dance more. And I was like, OK, done. So that's how decisions were made, season 1, which was really wonderful. But so that was 2017, so it's been 6 years, and we have really snowballed and grown a lot more than I could ever imagine, which is a wonderful blessing. And so now season 11 just happened in April. Thank you. We had 180 dancers, 23 choreographers, and over 1,000 people came to see our show. So it was really incredible. Thank you. More exciting than that, I am opening a studio space in July, our first space. Thank you. So much applause. Thanks, guys. I'm really excited about it, not just because it's going to be another dance studio, because there are so many dance studios, and they're all beautiful in their own ways, but also it's going to be a fitness studio. Also, it's going to be a wellness space, and also a creative hub, because I really feel like as adults, we need that space to be creative, and that connection, and that community. So I really want people to walk into this new space and feel inspired, and connected, and fulfilled, and I know at the end of the day that it's really about the people that make a space feel the way it does. So I'm not really worried because I might be biased, but I do think that CDP is full of the best people around. So it is going to be great. If my journey has taught me anything, it's the importance of community. Communities like this one, right, where people just come together and they connect in the real world. I think season 1 was really only possible because of those jazz classes with Dee Hillier, where I met all of those wonderful people who these studio owners gave me like checklists of what to do when running a show, and dancers volunteered to pass out programs and usher and bake for the bake sale. Like all these little details that go into running a show that I really had no idea, and you really don't think about until you're actually running a show. And you have to remember, too, like, I did not get into this because I wanted to start a business. I started this because I wanted something in Cleveland that didn't exist. And since no one else would make it, and I did email some people, no one else would make it. So I had to. So I was also dancing, though, to fulfill my own actual creative lust, I guess. So I was on stage dancing, and then also simultaneously trying to run backstage and run a show and do all the things that show directors do. And I really found that it is impossible to do that all by yourself. It's impossible to run a business on your own. I think even if you're not trying to wear all the hats, it's still impossible to do anything here in this world alone because life is hard. And the community that CDP fostered was really, really incredible. It was full of wonderful people who had similar goals and mindsets, and I really just could not have done it without them. So those amazing people were also constantly just finding us events to dance at and fundraisers to dance at and gigs to perform at, and I quickly realized that I needed a group of dancers that were dedicated to performing at these things, like today. You'll see them. So CDP Company was then born, and I want to distinguish this because it is a point of confusion for a lot of people, and I think it's an important distinction for anyone who is a business owner or aspiring business owner. Cleveland Dance Project, which I founded in 2017, is an LLC. So that means I have full ownership and full control. It is mine all the time. No matter what terrible decisions I make, they are mine. Cleveland Dance Project Company, or CDP Company, is a nonprofit. So it is a fiscally separate entity from Cleveland Dance Project, while they are both run by me. But it also means when you have a nonprofit that as the executive director, you can be fired at any time. Even as the founder, right? Your board can say, you are not doing what we want, and they can send you packing. And if you're doing messed up things, they should. But this distinction was important for me to note, and I think it's important for anyone who is thinking about starting their own business too. But I had to form CDP Company as a nonprofit, partially because it had a distinct mission, and partially because I quickly learned that you cannot pay professional artists without grants and donations. And I'm sure a lot of you know that as creatives, that it is impossible to get paid for all of the hours you put in to create and perform and do the things. So grants and donations are really where it's at for the 501c3. So CDP Company started as a semi-professional performance group, but it quickly became a dance and wellness blend of my medical background with my creative background. And we, yes, perform at events all over town because we're a dance company, but also we do some really life-changing work out in the community. We partner with The Gathering Place, which is a cancer support organization where we do mindful movement programming. We partner with Laura's Home, which is a women's crisis shelter, where we split the women and the kids, and we give the women a reprieve from their motherhood roles, and we have both of those groups move separately. And then we go around to independent living facilities, and we perform for them too. So we're always looking for ways to do more movement and mindful movement programming with adults especially, because I think there's this thing in our society where we're like, oh, kids need to be creative, but what about the adults? We've forgotten about the adults. You're good now. You're developed. You don't need to be creative anymore. So I think it's important too, even as a parent with kids, if you're not being creative and your kid is, they're looking at you and seeing someone who's not carrying forward those roles. So I think creativity as adults is something that we have to continue to foster all the time. And I really have found that these two organizations have taken more time than I ever thought they could, but they have been so fulfilling to me too, and they've taught me life lessons. Both CDP and CDP Company and just dance itself have taught me really valuable lessons about myself, about people, about resiliency, and of course, because we're here today, about movement. So to summarize those life lessons, we're gonna play a game with my beautiful dancers. And Tom's gonna play a game called Start My Music. And I'm going to introduce you to these three before Tom starts the music. This is Megan. Megan is our artistic director of CDP Company as well as a dancer, so she is by my side in all artistic decisions. Bridget in the front here is a former CDP Company dancer who is also getting her doctorate in physical therapy shortly. And then Rachel is our current CDP Company dancer. And we've got a couple of other dancers too, but these three are going to play with us today. So we're going to do some improv, which is not like comedy improv where you just say yes to everything. It is it's prompted. It's experimentation with movement. So dancers, you're going to start with flocking. Flocking is a group movement. So you follow the person in front of you. And as a dancer, it feels much safer to be moving in a group. The eye doesn't feel like it's solely on you. I'm going to come over here. It makes you feel like you're a part of something, which makes you feel connected to those around you. And as humans, we crave safety, right? We want to do what everyone else is doing because when we move in groups, it limits us, though. So we play it safe so we don't do anything too crazy that other people wouldn't follow. And you can see that they are moving relatively safely here. They're following what Bridget is doing. It's pretty, right? But it feels safe. There's nothing up there that goes, ooh, wow. So lesson number one is that as creatives, we can get along by doing what everyone else is doing, but that's not where the excitement lies, right? So dancers, now your prompt is to do whatever movement feels like it goes to the music. Break free, be yourself, experiment, play. It can feel a little chaotic sometimes when everyone's doing their own thing, and there are definitely moments in improv where dancers are gonna misstep, or they're gonna try something that feels a little awkward. But there's also going to be some moments that are really exciting and beautiful and just take our breath away. So lesson number 2 is when we take chances creatively or in our business or even in our personal life, there's always going to be a possibility of failure or awkwardness, but something really stunning and magical can come out of it too. And more importantly, failure is only ever final if you give up and stop moving, so just keep moving. Our next prompt, freeze for 8 counts, and then move for 8 counts. Keep repeating while I talk. So lesson number 3 is about finding the beauty in pause. Not only does pause give them a chance to breathe, it also gives them a chance to stop and think. What have I done already that worked? What haven't I done? Do I want to try to get down on the concrete today or do something wild, or am I going to save my body for class later? We are such a go, go, go culture, so it really does benefit us as humans too to pause and breathe and reflect. It resets us, it refreshes us, and it also allows us to look back and reflect on what worked and what didn't. I do this every season after CDP. I take constructive criticism from my dancers and my choreographers. And I sit and I think honestly about what I did that I really enjoyed and what I did that I did not feel like actually furthered my values. And I think that honest reflection and constructive criticism, no matter how hard it can be to hear, I think that's what helps CDP grow into what it is today. Next prompt, dancers, play with the levels. 16 to get low, 16 to come high. So our next lesson is that there are highs and lows on every journey, and things to learn from both of the extremes. As artists, I know we tend to feel extremes more extremely, right? But that's where creativity blossoms. Not in that safe, boring middle area, but on those days where you're having the best goddamn day of your life or everything feels like it's falling apart. How often have you had like terrible rejection, terrible heartbreak, and you've taken that and you've channeled it into the best dance, the best song, the best poem, the best business decision, right? We take those feelings and we channel them into something else. It is an unfortunate truth of life that there are going to be dark days. We all have them. But to find the beauty in the low moments, to know that the high moments are coming soon, and to experience it with people around you makes it so much more bearable and an honest part of the human experience that we don't see if we are not present here and we're just scrolling on our phones. So our final prompts, dancers, connect with each other, weight share or touch each other or pick a movement from someone else and play with it. Lesson number 5, community and connection are what make life worth living. The interactions that you are watching, they're bonding these dancers together. Physical touch, eye contact, or the moment where you look at someone and you say, please hold your core because I'm about to give you some of my weight, don't drop me. Or like in life, when we are walking on an icy sidewalk and you slip for a second and a stranger nearby just grabs you and saves your life. Those moments remind us that we are in it together, right? We bond you to people even if you never see those people again. They make you feel connected to the people around you. And it really doesn't matter what color you are, what background you are, what your preferences are. We are all humans on this journey. Could you live life on your own, ignoring everyone else, doing it all yourself? Maybe, but what's the point, right? What good is success if you don't have people to celebrate with? How easy is giving up if you don't have people to pull you to your feet, defend you to your naysayers, or keep you honest to yourself and your ideals? Yes, the more people you have in your life, the more drama, the more problems, the more, potential to disappoint. But more people also means more love, more joy, more creativity, more connection. And I guarantee you they would not be having as much fun if they were doing this on their own in their room without each other and without you all watching them. Community and connection are what elevate us as human beings. It drives us to be better versions of ourselves. I can honestly say that any success I've had has only been thanks to the people around me and the people who have offered their time and creative energy. Having an idea is the easy part. Executing that idea, executing it well, is really freaking hard, right? And doing it by yourself is absolutely impossible. So in summary, find a community like this one. Take pauses to reflect. Take those chances that you want to take. Cry about the failures, yes, you can mourn them, that's allowed. But then also stop and pause and think about how your failure can be something beautiful. And help a friend out when they look like they're on top of the world and succeeding, because sometimes they're really failing inside, and that's when they really need someone to tell all the haters to go pound salt. So, most importantly, because this is about movement, move every day because it is good for you, right? Whether it's a wiggle in the kitchen to your favorite song, a lazy lean on a friend, or a dance class at Cleveland Dance Project Studios, or just a step in the right direction for your own life, just keep moving. Thank you. And thank you to them. Round of applause. Take a bow. Take a bow.